The name Jimmy V needs no introduction around North Carolina. You know about the 1983 championship win and the cardiac pack. You know about the shocking cancer diagnosis and the speech that still inspires us today. I interviewed his daughter, who gave us a closer look at his life off the court as a family man.
Well, I am proud to say that I have been in North Carolina since 1980 when my dad took the head men's basketball coaching job at NC State. We grew up around my dad's big Italian family in New York, and so it was a shock when he came to us and said we were leaving moving to North Carolina because I had never heard of it, didn't know where Raleigh, North Carolina was. But it is my home, and the people that are here are just second to none. So we, even after my dad's passing and him working for ESPN and becoming a commentator, we were definitely not going to move away from the area.
Wow, I love that. Yeah, with that North Carolina Southern hospitality, you can't go wrong with it, right?
Absolutely. And it's just, we have been blessed. Just so much of our story is kind of out in the public and of our family and the things that we've gone through. And in the good times and in the tough times, this community has rallied around us. And so, again, we're just so thankful to be a part of just North Carolinians and to be able to celebrate so many of the wonderful things that we have in the state. So there's three girls in my family, and my older sister Nicole was the athlete of the family, but unfortunately, she was only 5 feet tall. So she really didn't have much of a career. She played in high school. And then I'm 5'9". I'm the middle daughter, and I have no athletic ability at all. So it was a big disappointment to the family. And then my younger sister, Leanne, she was a cheerleader, a junior cheerleader at NC State. And it was just so lovely because before the games, she used to run to my dad and hug him and give him a good luck kiss. And so we have such fond memories of kind of just growing up. And then my older sister and I actually attended North Carolina State, and we graduated with our degrees. And so we just have so many reasons to celebrate, the Wolfpack community.
That's beautiful. Talk to me about your relationship with your father growing up. Who is he outside of the court when you were growing up? What was that relationship like?
I love when people come up to me and tell me their Jimmy B stories because I'm always in awe of how many people he was able to touch. He loved meeting people and learning about them and was curious and obviously a big talker. And so many people come up to me and they'll have a story about meeting him, and it just warms my heart. It makes me just feel like he's still here. But growing up in our house, it was hard being around a basketball coach as passionate as him because the ups and downs of the games. One minute it would be a party at the Valvano house because we had, won a big game. And then the next day it would be a tough loss. And we knew not to even look at my dad during the season. Summers were awesome. We had a place in Atlantic Beach, Morehead City. And so we used to all travel as a family and vacation there. And that was just wonderful. And the other thing that was just awesome about my dad was that a lot of people don't know that he was an English major and he loved poetry and literature.
Wow.
And so I'm an English teacher now. And so people, will laugh, but his players will tell you that sometimes during the summer or during the season, he'd be reading, all of the plays of Shakespeare, or he loved poetry, Emily Dickinson and Robert Frost. And so he would, go around the house just reciting literature all of the time. So there was this beautiful side to him, where he was known to so many as a basketball coach. And then at home, there was that softer side where he would kind of have the heart of a poet. And I just loved listening to him recite things and just to know that side of him. But he always had a sense of humor. We were always playing games. Everything was a game to him or a competition. And so my sisters and I loved that. And he just, had such a warmth and um, magnetism that drew people to him. And so it was just, I have such fond memories of growing up when, those times when we were just able to be together as a family.
That is so beautiful. And we'll get to the 83 championship win in just a second. But I'm curious to know, I know you guys were little, but watching your dad's, career progress and everything leading up to the championship, obviously, but hearing the stories about him, I mean, what was that like to know that this is my dad, Jimmy V, that all of these people in the sports community are so fond of?
Yeah, it was. You know, my dad, one of my favorite stories that he used to share was that when he was 17 years old, he took out an index card and he wrote down all the things he wanted to accomplish in basketball. And he wrote at 17, he wanted to win a national championship. And so, as a young person watching my dad, he would, this is before technology. So he just had an index card that he carried around in his pocket and he would pull it out every so often and remind himself of where he was headed. And so, it was very inspirational for me to see someone who was so passionate and so single-minded as he went after, just what he loved, and that was sports. And so, as just a young girl, I looked at my dad as if he was a hero. As I said, was not terribly athletic. And so I would sit at the games in Reynolds Coliseum. And even before then, when I was younger and he coached at other places, and to watch him coach it, if you've ever seen somebody do something that they were born to do, it's so beautiful, whether they're a musician or an actor. And if you see my dad on the sidelines, if you see old film, he was certainly not quiet. I mean, he jumped and he shouted and paced and he left it all out there on the court. And so I think those are my favorite memories because it was again so inspiring to see someone so excited about what they did each and every day.
Mm. My dad is a coach as well too, in football, and so I know exactly what
Yes,
you mean. Seeing that excitement and that fun, and that's probably our favorite part about watching him. So I totally understand what you're saying there.
absolutely. It's tough when you're watching it because you're a nervous
You're
wreck.
nervous. You're at the edge of
Yeah.
your seat.
But at the same time, like you said, you just look at that person and think, gosh, that's what I want to do with my life. I want to find that kind of passion and excitement in what I do.
How old were you during the win in '83?
Oh goodness. I was around 11 years old. My older sister was about 13. And I can remember like it was yesterday coming back and flying in to RDU and seeing we went to Reynolds Coliseum and there was just this sea of fans that were there cheering for us. And again, only being 11, I don't think I fully comprehended what my dad had just achieved and how much it meant to so many people. It would take years for me to fully understand, what that 83 team meant and the impact that it had on the community.
Yeah, and fast forwarding to, with his ESPY speech as well. I mean, which is something that people still heavily talk about now and the amount of views as well too. Now, were you there during that speech?
Yes. So
Yeah.
I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, when I saw my dad, cut down those nets, and it was just the highest moment of our lives. And then I also was in the audience when a few weeks before he passed away, he gave that speech, and I was sitting next to him, and he didn't have any note cards, hadn't prepared for it at all, but he kind of just stood up on the stage and talked about how sports had blessed him, but also how it was so hard to be facing a terminal illness. And he announced the establishment of the V Foundation and left us with those words, don't give up, don't ever give up. And when he sat back down next to me, he leaned over to my mom and to myself and he whispered, "Did I do okay?" And that was such a special moment because that made me realize how important it was to him. He knew that it was probably going to be the last time that he had an opportunity to inspire and to bring a team together to battle cancer. And so, I just remember over the past 30 years seeing all of the work that, that's been done in the V Foundation. I, on a daily basis, whisper to my dad, "I think you did more than okay," because his legacy is continuing to grow stronger and stronger.
And that, cure for cancer was something that was really important for him as well too. But, talking and moving to your personal story,
Yeah.
you were diagnosed with cancer, and so kind of tell me when you were diagnosed and the connection there when it comes to your father's diagnosis.
Wow. How long do we have?
I
It's
know,
quite,
I know.
it's
I'm looking
quite
at the
a
time and I'm like, I
story.
could just talk to her all day.
It is quite a story. At that SB speech, my dad spoke the words, and again, he had not prepared at all. But he stood on that stage and he said, I'm starting the V Foundation for Cancer Research. It may not save my life. It may save my children's lives. It may save someone you love. And he prophetically spoke those words 13 years prior to my diagnosis. He had no idea that his own daughter would, be diagnosed with cancer. So at the age of 33, I discovered that I had a lump in my breast completely on my own. And I went to my dad's oncologist at Duke Cancer Center. And immediately they knew, because I was only 33, my dad was only 46 when he was diagnosed, that most likely this was a genetic type of cancer. So unknowingly, my dad had passed on to me the BRCA2 gene, which now is a little bit more well known, and celebrities and people in the spotlight have talked about it, but it makes you more susceptible to many forms of cancer. But the only way that we knew that I had that gene was because of cancer research, because my dad did not know he had that gene. It had not even been developed yet, or been had uncovered, excuse me. And so it was only through cancer research that not only did they know how to treat me and increase my chances of survival, but also because of cancer research, I'm an 18-year cancer survivor. And a day does not go by that I don't thank my dad for having the courage to stand up and ask other people for help. And so it has not only changed my life, but changed the lives of so many people, as we've donated, over $330 million to cancer researchers across the country. And I just can't believe that, a basketball coach who had no medical or fundraising experience set all of this to motion. He had a vision and he assembled a team just like he did on the court. And then he kind of gave us a game plan, how we could be victorious over cancer. And it has just been just amazing to watch what has happened over the past 30 years.
$330 million.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
My jaw is to the floor. That is so beautiful and so amazing. And which stage were you diagnosed with then?
So I luckily, again, I was 33, so I'd never had a mammogram or anything like that. And I didn't know that I had the gene. So had I not found the lump myself, I would never have known. So it was stage one, and I would have had a lumpectomy and gone on and not known that I had this gene. And then it probably would have come back and, wouldn't be here probably. And so it was just amazing that, my dad's doctors at Duke, because they had treated him, knew the little bit of the background and the family history, and immediately knew that this was something genetic. And so that's why when we talk about victory over cancer, oftentimes we imagine eradicating the disease, and nobody ever having to deal with it again. And that's challenging, because it's so many different little diseases and so many different people. And the way that I look at it is, victory over cancer is when you're sitting across from a doctor, and if you do hear those words, the next thing that you hear is, and here's how we're going to save your life. And unfortunately, my dad didn't get to hear those words, but I did. And so, I love to share that story with so many people, because again, eh, we all know somebody who has been affected by this disease, but we are having victories and we are making progress. And, the V Foundation kind of carries on that don't give up, don't ever give up spirit. And we just work day in and day out and raising money and getting it in the hands of quality researchers.
Thank you for sharing that with us and just your personal story as well too. Going towards the end of this amazing interview, what's it like seeing NC State now? I mean, men's, women's, advancing on to the Final Four. I mean, what do you think your dad would say to with these with this team? I mean, men's and women's.
It's whew, it's so magical. And we're so emotional for so many reasons. One reason is that obviously I'm an NC State fan and a graduate. But when my dad was coaching, as you and I talked about already, it was tense. I mean, you're watching your dad, you know that it's going to be, affect your family. And so it is entirely a different experience watching this team, the women's and men, as a fan. That it's not something that necessarily, I'm watching a family member compete and day in and day out. And so I've just been a fan this year. And earlier, a couple months ago, my dad was inducted in the Basketball Hall of Fame, the Naismith Hall of Fame, and Coach Keats flew and came and attended it with my family and was there. And we've just been a big supporter of his for a very long time and wanted him to be successful. And we're waiting for the Wolfpack to kind of get back to that same place. And so it has been so emotional for me because this team just embodies everything that really my dad cared about. And that is that you're passionate, that you work hard, that you laugh. This team has an amazing sense of humor, the men and the women, and also that they are united. I mean, you just look at them and you can see that they have figured out how to trust each other and work together and to be a team. And so I just was completely unprepared for how moving it is to watch it. And now I know why people were so excited in 1983, because as a fan, I'm watching this unfold. It's bringing up memories. There are people who are now experiencing this team with their children who in 1983 might have been teenagers or young adults. And so it's like the next generation
Wow.
of Wolfpack fans. And so it has just been an amazing ride. And the number of people that have reached out to my family, we don't have anything to do with the magic that is happening right now, but people are honoring my dad in such a special way, remembering him and thinking about 83 and looking ahead to hopefully that next moment of cutting down the nets.
In a beautiful way they're doing that. You went right into my last question. So many people have been placing flowers and vases and NC State gear, teddy bears, walking with their children, going to your father's grave. I mean, it really gives me chills kind of thinking about it. And then when you see the photos of people doing that, it means a lot to them. I know it means a lot to your family that they're continuing on his legacy. Have you gotten a chance to see some of those pictures of
I
his
have.
birthday? Okay.
We were actually, I was on the phone with my two sisters. So my one sister lives in New York and another one lives here. And at the same time that we were talking, different people had taken images off of social media and sent them to all three of us. And we honestly sat there and were, as you said, we had goosebumps. It was almost as if my dad was sending us a message, saying like, I'm still here. And it really speaks to the power of legacy that we know each of us have that ability to leave footprints for other people to travel in. And my dad left footprints, and that 83 team for this team now to follow and to walk in those footprints and, to far surpass, anything we could imagine. And they've done it in such a powerful way because they didn't listen to any of the naysayers, but they just believed in each other. And so I think my dad would be most proud of that as a coach. I think he would look at this team and how, and Kay Yao as well, who was so close to our family, who's no longer here, seeing the women be so successful. I think that's what they would be in awe of, is these young people who are inspiring another generation of not only Wolfpack fans, but sports fans everywhere have reached out to me and said that when they watch these teams, they know that they're witnessing something special, something that will be remembered, something that will leave a legacy. And so I know my dad would be overjoyed to know that, the Wolfpack is headed to the Final Four.